Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome back to a new episode on the Doctor Who and Autism Celebration series, a series to celebrate Doctor Who, obviously as it's 60 years this year, which is really crazy, and also to celebrate autism and neurodiversity, because Doctor Who is very impacted by autism, which is great, and so many people love it. So, yeah, today I'm joined with Chris, and we're going to be speaking about Doctor Who, autism, Synergy Cosplay, which we'll find about a little bit more about what that is. And Chris, who's been involved with it for a little while. So yeah, Chris, if you don't mind, do a little introduction of yourself and of yourself.
Yeah, my name's Chris Rose. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I have been since probably the age of 7. I think when I found a copy of Terror of the not Terror of the Auton Invasion book in the school library. I'm now 43, so I had to suffer the pain of my favorite television program not being on telly the entire of my school life. So yeah, and also recently I've been lucky enough to come into contact with people from Synergy Cosplay by one of my friends who has allowed me to actually take part in some events which I've never actually done before. Always wanted to. So I've spent some time dressed as a biker scout from Star Wars, doing various little events like a autism 5K charity walk for a wood on a very hot day, which was an interesting event. And then also Invasion Colchester, which was probably the most craziest thing I've ever done. It was absolutely hilarious. So I'll definitely be trying to do as many more things as I can if time allows. So yeah, so that's basically me.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Chris, for coming on. It's going to be good fun to talk about Doctor Who, the 60th Doctor Who in general. Um, and yeah, so I can't, I wouldn't imagine being able to miss Doctor Who throughout your childhood because it went on. So, so that must have been a pain.
It was an interesting one because I mean I think the funniest thing is, and this is the thing that when I tell people about it, they don't necessarily believe me, is the fact that I used to hate Doctor Who.
Did.
I was scared to death of it. My dad used to watch it, and this was the thing. So during and I have things that are emblazoned in my memory that scared me. And there's two things. And I always think they're very close together, but they're not. So the first one is Peter Davison being pinned against a wall in Resurrection of the Daleks by a Dalek and its plunger, and then it's in the same story, but not in the same episode. I don't think. I can't remember. Is when he's on the board and they're scanning his head to make a copy of him, and there's all the other doctors appearing on a wall behind, and he's screaming. And I remember that, and that scared and I never wanted to watch it. So, and then the other one that is brazen in my brain is the end of one of the episodes of Attack of the Cybermen, when I think it's one of the edited ones, when there's the hole that they either go down or something, and there's the theme tune came in. It could be that, or it could be a bit of Mark of the Rani. I can't remember. It's one of those two things, but it's because I was quite young at the time. So, but it's yeah, I used to not like it. So it was quite strange when I think, as I said, I found a book, a reading book of the Auton Invasion in the school library, I think, and I started reading it and thought, oh, this is interesting. You know, this sort of weird character turning up on a moor in Essex, falling out of having changed, falling out of a police box. And then it happened the same week that the first episode of Remembrance of the Daleks was on. So I sort of said, oh, I want to watch it, sort of thing. So watched it, and then it was it wasn't the greatest start. Watched it the next week, because this obviously when we had to video things if you wanted to watch it. So video recorded the first episode. The second episode, I had to go to Boys Brigade, and there was a thunderstorm. So my dad pulled the aerial out of the TV and didn't record it. So I never saw the second episode until it came on VHS. When I got it in Dalek tin. The third episode I missed because I was ill, and then I saw the fourth episode with my gran. So I literally missed the most of the story, and then after that, sort of carried on, and it it was, yeah, and just sort of carried on, obviously watching it, but obviously it was dwindling in numbers even at that time. You could see on the news and things, and then next thing you know, it gone, and in 1989, and then I was 9 years old and didn't have my favorite TV show anymore. So yeah, it was odd because obviously you wanted to, and there wasn't anyone to talk about at school because no one else watched it. So
It went
yeah.
on. Yeah, that would have been. I wouldn't imagine that. I bit stopped again, but
Yeah,
yeah, there
it
are
was.
some episodes that scare me, or like petrify me. So when I was little, I was scared of the in the Girl on the Fireplace episode with David Tennant,
Yeah.
where the clockwork monsters were under the bed. And
Mm,
also, I would also always be scared of thinking there's someone under the bed. Um,
mm.
and so yeah, that scared me. Weeping Angel scared me because I remember going to the Doctor Who experience when I was younger, and there was a Weeping Angel bit, and I didn't blink at the angels. One part I didn't blink, and I was with my parents, and I told them
Yeah.
don't blink. Um, and they thought I was joking. I was being serious, very serious. And until it was it was about 5 6 minutes, maybe even longer, walking around this long corridor full of weeping angels. Um, and they weren't close. They were like in the distance, but I just didn't blink. And yeah,
It's funny. It's funny you
petrified me.
say that about the experience because I remember I went to the one when it was in Earl's Court. We went to it, and obviously I'm walking around and I'm looking. Oh, there's the TARDIS. There's costumes and there's bits from all the the bits that come back. And it wasn't until we got into the bit where the Daleks appear later on, and it suddenly dawned on me, and I'm going, oh look, it's Daleks and all this sort of stuff. And it was when there was a small kid, little boy in there, and he literally was absolutely petrified. And it suddenly dawned on me that, all right, I was in my uh probably 20s or late 20s or something by the time, and I'm going, it suddenly dawned on me that there are children now who were like I was back in the day, who are now watching this and going, they're real. Oh my god, it's actually moving around. It's a Dalek. What's it going to do? Same thing. And I think that's the simple impact that Doctor Who has always had, like you say about the monsters under the bed. And that's the thing of it, that kids are always scared of things like the monsters under the bed. And I think that's what, when the series came back, a lot of the simplest things they that had been lost. I mean, there's a lot of things that you look in, you look at other programs and films and stuff like this with, you've got horror films like Saw and all this sort of stuff, which is just wall to wall gore and blood and things like that. The simple things that are actually more scary had been lost, and that's what, when in Doctor Who came back, it did so simply. I mean, I remember watching the first episode when Rose when that was on, and I was thinking, yeah, okay, it's all right. And then the second one was like, okay, it's a this and the end of the world and all this sort of stuff. But it was when the third one came along, and it was written by Mark Gatiss, the Unquiet Dead, and when it came on, and the music started with that elderly lady walking towards the camera, a dead body going and all this sort of stuff, and then all the next day I'm hearing that there were parents coming and people complaining about it, and I just went, right, we're off. It'll go now. This is where we're back at the point we need to be, where you hear people complaining because their children are scared of Doctor Who, which is what it was. I remember when I was staying with my grandparents one year when Dragonfire was on, and when Kane's face melts, the next day I remember hearing on the main breakfast news that like loads of people had phoned the BBC complaining about this melting head at 7:35 on a Wednesday night or whenever it was on. So it's the simple things that they do well. The monsters under the bed, the monsters in the cupboard, the Fear Her episode. You had it was a drawing. And there was things in the cupboard. The rattling of the doors and stuff. It's that it does simple, and I think that's why it's always been so so successful, because it yes, it does, you know, every now and again you get a big thing, you know, come along, especially in sort of the new series and things like that. But back in the day, it was the simple things. It was the unknown, the thing around the corner, the, you know, the creaking door or what have you. So yeah, it's definitely got that its place, I think.
Yeah, it has, and like that's what I liked about it, like as well when it began. That's when I started watching it in 2005. Um, and I was young, so that's good. It's good when it's scary. And I want it to be that way again. So I hope in the new series that there are some scary episodes, because that it's the good that they are the best ones when they're scary. Um, they're good, and we haven't had a proper scary one for a while, so it'd be nice to have another one.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm trying to think back when the last sort of scary one I watched was. I mean, even down, I mean, even with some of the later sort of Peter Capaldi ones, where I mean, you got aliens pulling their in the Christmas one. Was it the Doctor Mysterio one where you pull the head off? And I'm going, and you know, that would normally an alien, you know, pulling its head apart would be quite scary. But even then, I was kind of going, it didn't come across as scary. I don't know why. I don't know why that was. But the simpler things, you know, to do with I think this the simple things that Doctor Who has always done with the cliffhangers. I mean, some of them are so simple but caused so much problems. Um, I mean, I mean the two that always stick in my mind. I mean, because they're always talked about. I mean, you've got Genesis of the Daleks when Tom Baker was literally didn't have an ending, so he said, "Oh, just grab this stuff and hold it around your, you know, your neck, and you're being strangled to death by, you know, Dalek mutants and stuff," and it's horrible. You know, and this sort of stuff. And then you've got the one that I think Mary Whitehouse at the time complained the most about, which was, you know, Tom Baker being drowned at the end of Deadly Assassin. And it's literally his head bobbing underwater, looking like he's dead. So it's those sorts of things that it left that image. And I sometimes, and that's why I've never. I mean, I know it's there, and I know a lot of people you have to have it in these modern day things, but I don't like the next week bit that came back, with especially in the two-part stories. They did change it around a bit in later series, where obviously you got the titles, and then if you wanted to, you could turn it off, so you didn't know what was going to happen, sort of in the next week, sort of thing. Because
Yeah,
I think that was the one little bit that spoiled me. I love the cliffhangers. I always have done. So
yeah, I like that. I would actually prefer it if they didn't show what happened the next week, because you then you know a little bit. It's almost like a trailer, isn't it? Well, it is a trailer. It's a trailer
yeah,
for the next episode.
yeah, it's a trailer for the next episode, and obviously, you know, the doctor's running around giving orders. You're going, oh well, that didn't kill him. Then what's happening to him now? He's not going to die. So, you know, I think it was the episode. I think the first episode of Battlefield when um something happened to the Seventh Doctor, and and it's like something started happening with his like this pattern over his face, and my dad actually looked at me and went, hang on a minute, is he going, is they changing someone else? And I actually went, I don't know. At the time, you know,
Mm.
I think when they in the 90s or whenever that was. Um so yeah, you had this sort of unknown bit, because obviously there wasn't all the social media and everything that we have now, so you had to go back next week to find out, how did just, whoever was getting away from whatever monster at the time, did they, how did they get away from that? So yeah, but the whole scariness section of it, especially, I think you're right, we do need a new scary um scary sort of monster, or not monster, or just storyline. I think something that isn't necessarily, in your face, but just makes you think, well, that's horrible, sort of thing.
Yeah, it don't have to be petrify us, but like even those little things, like you had the doll episode with Matt Smith. You
Yeah,
had they
yeah,
were scary, and the
that was,
Flesh
yeah.
one, and the Rebel Flesh, where they were us, but they were flesh.
Mm.
I always remember that episode because I always remember I had a barbecue when I was watching that. I think it was the first part. Um, and I couldn't really hear the episode because there was all music and in the garden, doing the barbecue. And I always remember it, and it always petrifies me because as a kid, I would always say to like my parents when watching Doctor Who, I'd be like, am I going to turn into that? Is that going to happen to me? And stuff like that. And then the funny thing is, I because of that, I was so petrified of it. I went to doctors and they said he's too petrified of Doctor Who. I don't know what to do. And because I was saying stuff like, "Am I going to be okay?" and stuff like, "Is that going to happen to me?" Because that's because it was so scary at that time period. Like now, last 7 years, no, I wouldn't say there has been a scary episode really. Um,
Yeah, it's been yeah. I mean, even down to the I mean, one of the scary. I mean, everyone goes on about the Daleks, and yes, don't get me wrong, I do love the Daleks, but in the new series, I think they've been massively overused. That was always the big thing. It's why there is generally only one story with each Doctor having it. In the classic series, having their one story with the Doctor and the Daleks in it. But I, they're great, and I've always loved them, and they're you understand them, and obviously got remote control one sitting over there and various other things, and a wall of them here. I've got blooming hundreds of Daleks. But I always find that the Cybermen are the most scary, and always have done, because it is the fact that if you think about it, it is a exactly. Yeah, there we go.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
got not far too many. I can keep going. Damn character options. I keep bringing things out. So it's
Yeah, the Cybermen are scary as well.
yeah,
I think so.
and this is where things like Big Finish, when Doctor Who was off before it came back, and even though I think this one probably came out after Doctor Who came back, but well, no, it was actually, sorry, no, when it wasn't away, there was Big Finish, but also there was there was a set of books that came out. The BBC sort of had a set of books that were all available after the show had ended. I think it was all sort of branded around the whole TV movie thing. And I'm trying to look for it, but I can't see the darn thing. It was sitting here, and now I can't find it. But one of my favorite stories and books was called Illegal Alien, which is a Seventh Doctor and Eighth story. It was I think it was written by Mike Tucker, but it's the set in the Second World War, where the Cybermen are sort of lurking around London, and it was just the first time I'd actually sort of properly read a book since for a very long time about Doctor Who, because I just sort of it had gone. I was getting older. I'd sort of gone away from it a bit. There wasn't much about, and went back and read this book, and it just sort of reignited it for me. And the fact that it then turned into a bit of a four-story continuation novel was really good, and they had some really interesting storylines, even down to the one where there's I've forgotten the name of the book now. It's completely gone out of my brain. But even down to one where the fact was Jack the Ripper in London, was it actually the Doctor? And was he being affected by it, by what was going on in London? And was it actually him? So yeah, that was really good, and that sort of reignited it. And then Big Finish came along and also added in the new stuff and the different stories and characters and things. And I think my favorite Cyberman story is Spare Parts, which is absolutely fantastic. It's literally the Fifth Doctor and Nyssa being stuck on Mondas before the Cybermen, or just literally as the Cybermen are about to come into being. And it's just listening to this sort of story about all these people who think that this committee is actually helping them, whereas in truth it's actually just basically trying to, you get to a point where it's going to just harvest them all and basically stick them into these suits with blank cotton cloth faces. to become the original Cybermen, is horrible, because it basically sets it up as they aren't that far different from us. It's just a little bit of a differently technologically advanced type of sort of setup. But it's and there's some really horrible bits in that, which is all done through sound, people getting converted and things like this and stuff like that. And it's that scary nature of it. But it was just such a brilliant story, and such a really a story. I think it was a story that is such a shame that it couldn't have been on television. But then would it have been as good? Because obviously you then can stuck with the budget constraints of a TV program and stuff like that. Whereas with actors and sound, you create the picture in your head. So so yeah.
Yeah, I think with the Daleks and the Cybermen, I think every Doctor who's going to be the Doctor will want one of them at least to be in their series, because I think it's just something about being the Doctor. You're going to get the Cybermen, you're going to get the Daleks at least once. But I do think they don't need to be as used as much. I think maybe include them maybe once. I'd like to see them used a bit differently. The Daleks are always used the same. Maybe use it a little bit differently. They might be used differently in the new series, hopefully, but I think they've got a new design and everything. So it'd be nice to have a different storyline rather than just destroying the Earth. Have a different way, like that first Dalek episode. That was different. Have something not like that, not exactly the same, but have it maybe a backstory of the Daleks or something back when it or maybe all started. Going back even before Davros. So
yeah, I mean, there's there is a Big Finish story called Davros, which has a bit of his backstory in it, and that's sort of used to some extent to sort of paint the picture of who he is and why he becomes what he becomes and stuff. But I think sometimes, you could have a Dalek story in it, but you don't always have to have. I think that was the thing that was so good about the classic series, was you knew it was a Dalek story because it had the word Dalek in the title. So you knew that they were going to be in it. So it's that kind of thing. But you generally didn't see a Dalek until the end of the first episode. That was how it worked. That was the thing. You knew they were coming. I mean, and that gave you then some interesting stuff. You knew they were coming. You could build that story up until they arrived. Which now, if you have these different, I think I'm trying to think of the ones that we've had in the past. Sort of, they always seem to be there straight away, and they're just there, and they're not really 100% sure what they're doing. I think it's just like they sort of seem to be with the Time War stuff, and it's all been brilliant, it's all great, and it's had that lovely backstory to it, and given that thing of what happened to the Doctor, but when when the Ninth Doctor turned up, but it's the fact that they were always there. They're there immediately the minute that it's a a Dalek story. The Daleks are back because they'll have already told you last week because you'll have seen it in the trailer. It's that sort of thing, and I think it just detracts a little bit from it. Whereas even with the Cybermen, they alluded to, I mean, especially with David Tennant, in I think it was Age of Steel, I can't remember, where you've got that Cyberman that they kill. I've forgotten the character's name. She gets killed straight after, which is a bit harsh. I always thought. I can never remember a character's name.
oh yeah, I know who
And
you mean. But like yeah, she got
the
10.
old sort of middle-aged lady, and I got who he's with, and then next thing
Yeah.
they're doing, and they have this really, and I actually think her death spoils what has just happened, because they have this really horrible sort of poignant moment with a Cyberman that's just been converted, which is clearly a woman who was on her wedding day, and they go through this whole thing, and it says, I can't, he can't see me before in my dress, and it's horrible. You've got this thing that they've just killed, that's just this lump of metal that's got basically in it someone's brain
All
who
their
thinks they're getting
emotions, yeah.
married that day, and all the emotion and everything that's in it, and it's horrid. yeah, then they may immediately detract from it by having David Tennant's the woman who's been knocked off by and three Cybermen turn up and dragging him off, and it's just like just leave it, end that, a killer in the next scene, and it's sometimes you've got to, it's like you're saying about that horrible part to it, and it makes more of an impact because yes, I know we had the whole thing with Bill getting changed into a Cyberman and the sort of stuff, but even that detracted from it slightly because they kept changing when you were looking at Bill, you kept seeing Bill as Bill because that's what she thought, not, and it kept swapping backwards and forwards. And I kept thinking, yes, right, I know you've got to have um, Bill in it because obviously, it's just the way that it was filmed, but it's if you're going to hammer home, because it was always that, is she really dead? Is the doctor going to save her? She should have just gone because he knew he couldn't save her at that point. There was nothing he could do. And that's sort of the thing of it. You just got to leave it and go with it, and go sometimes in the horrible place that that I think sometimes they're scared to go these days. I don't know how they think that's going to necessarily affect children. I mean, like you were saying, you were scared. Were you going to, was that, you're going to turn into something?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially one that really scared me was the Waters of Mars. With the water creatures, like the like that could be really fearful, and people would be feared to drink water, which they could be.
Yeah.
So it's a really good episode.
Mm.
It is. I've been to the location because I like going to different locations,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but it is, if you think about it in that way, that could make people not drink water.
Yeah, but it is crazy the effect that these things do have on people like that. And as you're saying, like especially younger, I was trying to not
Yeah,
drop
your younger audience.
younger
Yeah.
audience, and I do think they sometimes got a little bit worried about how people were going to see things like that. Whereas I think it's just the way that the way that television's gone now. It'd be interesting to see. I'm interested to see in the next bit, obviously with the Star Beast episode, especially because I bought the classic comic series, when it was out in the 90s, and it's got the one in it with meat in it and all this sort of stuff. So, it's I'm really looking forward to that because obviously I saw the trailer and went, oh my god, they've actually done it. They're actually going to do this story. In what way they do it, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but it's going to be are they going to make are they going to do it scary and stuff? Are they going to do little bits of because it's all you don't know which way the story's going to go at the time, but it's it's going to be interesting to see how taking something from a different era and bringing it and making it in this era will be, which will be interesting, especially with the toy maker coming back, which yeah, I think that's going to be very interesting because he's such a such an old hidden character that we have one episode that exists of it. I think it was a Celestial Song. I think there's only one episode that exists of it or something, and then obviously the Nightmare Fair that got cancelled. So the mystical trip to Blackpool that we never went on. So it's going to be interesting to see how that happens. So sorry, there's a dog looking around. So it's going to be interesting to see how they bring that into the modern era as well, especially because we don't really know a lot about him. We don't know how powerful he actually is. This is is this going to be something that we learn about? Is this going to be something that goes forward? Is this going to be a new sort of recurring villain in this this iteration, the 14th going into the 15th? Is he going to be the reason why we have a 15th Doctor? We just don't know at the moment. So
yeah, we don't actually know. But the good thing about the trailer is we don't know anything. We still don't know anything. Like normally when we get a trailer, like from
Yeah.
past seasons, you think you have a little idea what's going to happen.
Mm.
Um, and in this one, you don't. Like, they keep it really hidden, so you don't really know what has. I guess the episode that you might know a little bit more probably is the Star Beast, because
Yeah.
you would think it's about Beat the Meep, it's going to crash the ship, the Doctor's going to go searching for the Beat the Meep, it's gone in the house. So that's the only one I'd say.
Yeah.
And Wild Blue Yonder is the one that I guess none of us know anything
Mm.
about, and the Giggle as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, so it's good. It is very interesting to see what is going to happen. Because
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing that I want to see the most is how is he going to stop her from dying? Because this whole reason he can't, he had to leave her in the first place, leave her Donna in the first place, is the fact that she couldn't remember him. So how is that going to happen? Because quite clearly, obviously, in the episodes going forward, she's talking, she's with him and talking about the TARDIS and various other things. So I'm looking forward to that. And then obviously the only other thing I think that which they've hidden from the trailer and which I'm really happy about, is they haven't shown Bernard Cribbins once, and we know he's going to be in it. So and that's going to be, that'll be an interesting
it's going to be
thing.
good.
That'll be
Yeah,
good. And because Wolf became that companion that we didn't know we needed. I think that was the thing in End of Time and all those sort of that story. It was yeah, you didn't know that you needed him, but you did, because he sort of grounded that whole thing. It was a very strange um
yeah. It wasn't a thing that we expected. We just thought that the Doctor would just be on his own for the
mm,
rest of this time, but then Wolf was there, and yeah, I think the only part which I've noticed, well, you have to go have good eyesight. Is in the trailer where Donna is standing there, where all the chaos is going, on the street, and you see like Donna just staring there, like really blurry, and in the
yeah.
distance you may just see a guy with a hat on, very blurry. You couldn't physically see him, but he's there somewhere. So I'm glad that they have kept that. They haven't
Mm,
showed anything, because obviously he's not on as much as they originally planned, but he's gonna be in. I would like to say he was at least in maybe a little part in each episode, even
yeah.
if it's just a scene per episode would be good. And yeah,
And
I think.
I think it's also the fact that one of the only he's one of the only people that have been in Doctor Who since I've actually met. So
Mm.
so
Oh
so
yeah, you met him.
I got to meet him in. I used to work, because I worked in stage management and lighting a very long time ago, in like my probably 4 careers previous, before now working in a hospital. But I used to work at the Wolsey Theatre in Ipswich, and that got closed, so I had to go and quickly find a job. So I ended up working at the new Shakespeare Company in the open air theatre in Regent's Park. And I ended up being the front of house manager. And one of the shows we had on that year was a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which Roy Hudd was in. So obviously I had June Whitfield turn up with Bernard Cribbins, so that was very very odd. And obviously I had to sort of let them in and all this sort of stuff. So only briefly met them, but I met them and they were very nice people. So, but it was very strange. So yeah, he is, and obviously knowing that he had previously been in the Peter Cushing film in Dalek Invasion of the Earth. Yeah, it was very strange. And you look at him and you think to yourself, I mean, you can't. I mean, yes, I know he's in Doctor Who, but I still, you hear his voice and you just immediately think of the Wombles. So it's it's
Mm.
just the way it works. But having that character there, I mean, he's another character that happened. I mean, this is another way that I think is so great, how the show adapts, especially with the way that the writing works now, is the fact that you had Runaway Bride with Donna, her mum and her dad, and and that was going to be the family, and that was going forward. That was going to be the family. But then, unfortunately, the actor who played her father was diagnosed with cancer. He was at the first read through, but then quite clearly he was not going to be able to continue acting, and did pass away, I think, quite quickly. But in between that, you'd had the you'd had the episode, I can never remember the name of it. You had the one with Kylie Minogue in it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the Voyage of the Damned.
Voyage of the Damned, where they go to Earth and they beam down, and there's a bloke selling newspapers or something, and it's
Yeah,
Bert
yeah,
Cribbins, and he's in this thing saying, "Oh well, everyone goes away at Christmas now because over the last few years everything keeps going wrong. Like we had that big spaceship turn up over London, in the Christmas invasion, all this sort of stuff. So everyone goes away from London now, and that's the thing. It's like they took that character and went, well, hang on a minute, let's just make him Donna's granddad. So it's a character that I think works because of, all right, I know it was circumstances weren't very, very, very good, but they managed to create a character and put them into that family environment. And it just worked so well, especially with having such an actor like that. I mean, because at the time he's doing that, he was still appearing on kids' TV shows and things, but and that's also, I think it's a link for kids to not be scared about because they've got someone like Wilf, but who is Bernard Cribbins, who is, like, I've forgotten the captain, on the boat he was on with the dog in kids, CBBC or something. And you've got that, and there's that link, and kids can see that and they can go, oh yeah, it's so and so. I feel safe with that person. And that's another thing that Doctor Who's always done. It's allowed people to kids to go into horrible situations and look at situations, and always have that safety because they're with people that they've seen on other things on television, or they've seen because they know that these people are going to all right, and they trust them and things like that. And I think it's always, I think it's one on I think it's one of the sort of other documentaries I'd seen about it, is the fact that the Doctor, he doesn't use weapons and guns and things like this and stuff like that, but yet the way that he talks out of things is, it gives people who maybe not that confident stuff to be able to say, well, I don't need to fight, I don't need to do this, um I can find other ways out of situations that don't necessarily involve violence. So yes, I know it can be a violent show, but there is that, there is always that whole thing of the Doctor, when he says to Rose, he grabs on the rose and says, run. People will run away from it. You don't have to go and fight it. You can run away and solve it in a different way. So it's always been interesting from that point of view as well.
it has, and there's so much good things that happen, like that, just that first one, Run,
Mm.
or the music in it as well. How good the music is in the show, and the memorable characters like Wilfred. How like you say, how it all came about,
Mm.
and now he's back for one last time.
Yeah,
Which unfortunately he can't be there to see it himself, even though he's done it. But I guess,
exactly. And
but
that's, yeah, I think that's the important thing,
mm,
that yeah, I think that's the thing. I think the nice thing is, I mean, the BBC could have said, well, we're going to just redo it and not have him in it, but obviously his family have said, no, we want him to be in it, and that's going to be, the last thing that he does. And I think that'll be a very, I think they might do it in a way where it could be, it could be a bit sad and a bit upsetting. We'll just have to see, because as you say, we don't know anything about this. I mean, this whole thing that's coming up, even to the fact that we're seeing pictures of the next series with Ncuti Gatwa in it already, but we have no idea what it means. There's pictures of him in very, all these different costumes and all this different stuff, and they're already apparently filming a Christmas episode with him in a kilt.
yeah,
Oh, I know, is that Jamie's kilt? Does he find Jamie's kilt in the TARDIS somewhere and decides to wear it? It's stuff like that. It lets you think about these things again. It all just got a little bit, well, this is coming, it'll be all over the front of the Radio Times, yes, we know it'll be covered, and there'll be a trailer, and I'm sure we'll get information about this, that, and the other, and stuff. But it's just the fact that because it's the 60th anniversary, we don't know anything about it. I mean, no one expected I mean, I don't know how many people actually expected. I mean, there was probably rumors and various other things that, you know, what was going to happen, but I don't think anybody expected all of a sudden Jodie Whittaker to disappear on top of Durdle Door and David Tennant to be standing there going, you know, saying what 3 times. So it was crazy. So
I think most of us thought when David Tennant was announced,
mm,
I think it was announced with Catherine Tate. I think everyone thought that they're just going to be a cameo. They're not going to be the main
mm,
people of the 60th. And then like you say, we see David Tennant saying what 3 times, and
yeah,
he's a doctor. So it's
and it's
interesting to see
yeah.
why he's back. There must be a reason. Has the toy maker done something to that, or is he just the next doctor along the long
That's
line?
the thing. Is there something to be fiddled around with? Is he being manipulated in a way? And I mean, it's funny. I think they keep. Did they show it recently on a clip on the BBC Instagram feed? And it was the doctor meeting the curator, or maybe I saw it, and it's the fact that when Tom Baker's playing that curator character, and he says about some of the revisiting some of the old faces, you know, but just the favorite ones, you know, and sort of giggling with him. You know, is
Yeah,
that link back to that?
yeah,
It's
10 years ago, yeah.
exactly, and this is there are so many. I think in this day and age now, you can't rule anything out. I mean, you've got to think of the amount of effort and time and planning that they've put into Marvel films, that they've had symbols in the first Iron Man film that was then in Shang-Chi 6 years later. You know, it's they've planned that. You know, so the fact that you've got Doctor Who and various things that you know harks back, it's got 60 years to delve into. It's, you know, you can pull anything out and allow it to become something new. And I think that's still the fascination of it. The fascination that we're sitting here in 60 years after, like me saying in 1989, you know, Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred walked off into the distance talking about, you know, the tea getting cold, and then that was it. They were gone. That was, you know, there wasn't anything from that, you know, then until 2005. And well, sorry, we had 96, I should say. We had, you know, with the TV movie, but it's that whole the not knowing bit, and the whole fact that they could go back anywhere now and get anything. I think that's the joy of it, especially with, as you say, with the toy maker, because it's such an unknown character, because we know so little about him other than, you know, one story which only has an episode left and an audio rest of it, and then obviously the, you know, the big finished version of the Nightmare Fair. But it, it, it's an unknown. We don't know, and that's going to be the joyous thing of it, I think, because it's so hidden. And I know fans are, you know, desperate and all this sort of, they want to go and they're hiding, you know, hiding around watching filming and all this sort of stuff. But even the filming that they've seen, it still doesn't give you, you know, you're thinking, wow, that's coming up, or whoa, they're doing this.
They're just
So
these
yeah.
the filming they do. It's one scene.
Mm,
Most of the time, it's one
yeah,
scene,
it's
one or
one
two
thing.
scenes. They
Yeah,
don't do it all in one go. They learn this little bit. They just do it.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's nothing, you know, we don't know what that relates to. It could mean anything. So
yeah. Like
it's
a Doctor Who actor that I had on was in a Christmas special.
mm,
The Voyage of the Damned.
right.
Um, and it's really cool. I got the opportunity to speak to this person, which will go out for Christmas this year. I'm a bit like Doctor Who, all in advance. um, and it's really interesting. One thing that she said, or he said, who knows who it is. They said the good thing about it was because I'm not the best with remembering all the lines in one go. So what they did was you would do it like you do one day of one or two scenes,
Mm,
and you come back again.
mm,
And I thought, yeah, that's that's good because you lose track of what you're doing, and like with Shooty in the Kilt, you see, I think the thing what he's saying is get back. Everyone
yeah,
has him get back, and he's in the kill, and he comes out this big snowman head,
yeah,
and no clue why he's in the
yeah.
kilt.
Is he in a
Maybe
kilt one?
maybe because he's Scottish and he wanted to get in the kilt, but I need to get out this big snowman. So of course that
Mm.
will be all CGI. The snowman is probably I don't know. It might not be
Mm.
CGI, but I would think it would be with having a big snowman and going out of it or something. But who knows? And I think that
Gonna
would be
be-
this Christmas as well. I wouldn't think that would be that it might be, but I'm not sure.
That's the thing, we don't know, do we?
Who
That
knows?
is the is it this Christmas? Is it next Christmas? We just don't know because again they're being cagey about it, which is
We'll
nice.
we'll know by this Christmas if it is because
Yeah,
we'll see it.
we'll see it. We'll all know. But yeah, it's just that whole the way that it's being planned, and it's obviously there's a big master plan obviously going along because you don't get somebody like Russell to come back and do this if he didn't have a plan. I think he's obviously been plotting something, which is nice because um, I think to a certain extent that I don't want to say the thing that I've always struggled with is that during Russell T Davies' era, my favourite stories are all written by Stephen Moffat. But when Stephen Moffat took over, it was great, but then it all just went a bit
It didn't make no sense, did it?
sense, and I was like, "What?" So yeah,
Especially the impact, like the silence storyline. The silence was lovely. I loved it, but
yeah,
it was just too complicated. And the big bang at the end of the first series, with the
yeah,
Pandora opens, like Amy's in it. What's going on? So
yeah.
it didn't make no sense. Especially if you're young as well, for a younger audience.
I was
You
going to say,
think
yeah,
like I was young at that time. I was thinking, what's going on? You got to try and keep up because one minute
mm,
someone else is in the Pandorica. Why are
mm.
they in the Pandorica? Never was explained, I don't think. But
I
it's
don't
great.
think it was either, was it? I don't think they actually did
No,
um, explain that at all, and okay, you can understand. I mean, yeah, definitely, it's for a younger audience. Watching um watching that is a confusing thing. So and there are times when you kind of need that explanation because there people that do need it. They do need a bit more information given to them by the story. Especially is is that going to affect the way that they see it? Is it going forward?
yeah, like there are some very complicated stories out
Mm,
there. The thing I like about a story is if they conclude it. Like Bad Wolf, I think it's hard to say if it was concluded or not, but I'd say it's got a finish. But with the storyline, maybe in the last series that it never was concluded. That they put loads of things in it, and it wasn't finished. So I like it when it's finished before the next
yeah,
Doctor, at least.
yeah. There was a lot of hanging around with things, and I mean, I think the one for me that stood out that they didn't really give an answer to, I think, is some of the bits around the like the fugitive Doctor, it's like
Mm.
and stuff like that. It's like, um, yes, you had that and various other things, but it wasn't always clearly explained. And also with I think going back before that, you had oh, I can't think now. My brain's gone dead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
my brain's
You have just loads, don't you?
yeah,
That happen, like the future of Doctor. Didn't really probably know where that fitted in the timeline. So,
yeah,
um, it's annoying in some ways because she didn't get a lot of screen time. Um,
yeah.
like before, after the feature of Dr. Jadoon, she might have got. We find out who she is now. Like
Yeah.
she's a doctor, probably from the future or
Hmm.
the past, but probably from the future because it says the future for future, I presume. So, um, but yeah, there's so much that needs to be told. Um, but I guess for the 60th, do you think that can you see any other doctors other than the ones that we already know coming into it, or do you think it's just going to be Shooty and David?
I think I would be surprised if any other ones appeared. Um, I don't know whether we might get something like with the scene with Clara and 11 on the phone, something like that, we could get. But there's no link anymore. They've broken the link because obviously Jodie was on. They'd gone off to their group of their little group of all the ex-companions sitting in a room all chatting about the Doctor. But whereas there wasn't that link to sort of follow on from a previous sort of, you couldn't have that scene because they've gone. But it was nice seeing the Doctors, when 13 was on the edge of existence, them saying, you've got to stop, you're not ready, and all this sort of stuff. And I love the fact that they used David Bradley again, because he could have just been seen as a bit of a one-off for the documentary, Venture Space and Time. And then the fact that they then brought him into Doctor Who as the first Doctor, being done, very cleverly being done, and then allowing him to be in that as well, it worked quite well. So I think we saw them then. I don't think we'd see any other ones, because it becomes increasingly difficult because of, unfortunately, Peter Davidson, as much as I love to see him in that outfit, which I've got that hanging here, but I love to see him in that cricket outfit. He's him and Colin Baker and where they are getting on a bit, and it doesn't always work. I know they come up with the whole, it's the time differential, and it'll snap back when when I've gone or whatever. It's one of those things that I think it would be nice if we saw something of a Doctor that we wouldn't even expect. I mean, we didn't expect Tom Baker to turn up in Day of the Doctor, so why doesn't he turn up in this? At some point, you never know. I mean, it'd be an interesting thing, and I don't know how they'd do it.
Yeah, as a Tom Baker, the Fourth Doctor is the Starbeast storyline.
Yeah, is it going to involve the Curator again? I mean, they could do that as that character. I mean,
I think that we've got more chance of having Matt Smith,
yeah,
and then any of the Doctors. I think he's the only one I can think of. Like Peter Capaldi might, but doubt it. Chris Eccleston probably won't. Dave Tennant's already in it, so Jodie. The only way I can see Jodie being in it is not any more scenes. It's just say it's a dream. She just has a regeneration again into shooting. That's the only way I can see it. Her being any involvement in it. And the only way I can see all the Doctors being in it. So if there's a scene in it where David Tennant regenerates, and for some reason it goes through the whole cycle of all the Doctors, and they have a little line each, maybe, saying, or if they bring the Edge into it again, like they did in the Power of the Doctor, and you just have the Doctors there again, like they did before. But I doubt they'd do that because they would want to do new ideas. They might do the Edge, but maybe with the Doctors that weren't there before. But I personally don't want the Edge to be in it, because I just want someone new that we ain't seen. So the end scene of the trailer, we see Shooty. A lot of people saying it's the Edge. I would love it not to be the Edge. I personally think it's the Toymaker's realm, where he's in the Toymaker's realm, stuck, and he can't go any further until the 14th Doctor's done everything he's told him.
Yeah, there is that. I mean, the only other one I thought, because you tried to look in the background, and I didn't know if he was standing on the same place where Jodie turned into David. So that was my own sort of little thing. I'm going, is it the same place? Are they going to put him back there and it will just sort of reset itself? I don't know. So
I reckon it's just a hidden background.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's just a background that
they've just put in.
Maybe we'll see, but especially because I think that picture of him at the end, sort of standing there and sort of with his eyes closed in the latest trailer, it's quite clearly that's he's just been put in there. It's not. I don't think he's doing anything. He's sort of just looking. But it's just going to be one of those.
Yeah.
And again, that's the nice thing. We don't know, because there's been so much like I say, that has come out previously. We've known this is going to happen. We know that's going to happen, and we just don't know. And that's the nice thing of it. We're sitting here talking about a 60-year-old television program that is still to this day. People are, we're sitting here talking about it now, going, we don't know what's going to happen. What is going to happen? How's it going to affect this? How's it going to affect that? So yeah, so it's the way that it's continually changed and reinvented itself. um it hasn't always worked. It's worked in most times. Some things haven't worked. But yeah, we'll just have to see where it goes. It's going to be an interesting one, especially because I never thought Russell T Davies would come and make any more of it. So it will be, it will definitely be a new, yes, it's going back a bit to someone who's already done it, but it's definitely a new chapter. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a time to. It's like all the fandoms have done it. Like Star Wars have gone back in time with Anakin, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Marvel with the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield. So Doctor Who are doing that now. So it's all about the nostalgia, going back in time to a time
Yeah.
where Doctor Who was at its best.
Mm-hmm.
Like its peak, it was good. It's not saying it's not good now. It's just where loads of people watched it, and
Yeah.
the views these last years have not been good.
No.
And it could have been axed again. It could have been stopped.
I
Um,
honestly thought it was going to be. I mean, that's the thing I think, um, that I honestly thought was going to happen, and I thought, you know, people in in your position, who've watched it since 2005 when it came back and have grown up with it. How would you have then felt? How when it went away? Because obviously, for me it would have been a second time. Here we go again, sort of thing. And
yeah, it would have been a nice feeling because Doctor Who is not just when it's on. You cosplay you do all these different videos. You go to conventions, and it's not the same when it's not on anymore. It's like with Star Wars and Marvel, they've kind of the franchise are not like Doctor Who, because they have finished in a way. They have finished like especially Marvel. Not so much Star Wars because Star Wars can still go on and make new movies. Just maybe not focus on much around the Skywalker. Do something.
yeah,
I think I remember when they did the Star Wars convention. That they announced did certain announcements saying they're going to do some with a new family, do new films. So that's still going. But the thing with
mm,
Marvel, is that it finished. To me, it finished at Endgame because that's what you call it,
mm,
Endgame, for a reason. And they're just doing all these
yeah,
new stuff just to keep it going for the fans because there's so many people love Marvel.
yeah,
But I don't watch them. I watched the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, the Star Wars,
mm,
but I haven't watched any of the spin-offs for Marvel except from I'll still watch some Spider-Man films because I like Spider-Man. But like with Doctor Who, it's a totally different ball game where it's we can still have spin-offs, but the main show can still go on.
mm,
Um, and because it reinvents itself, like you have a Doctor every
yeah. I
8
mean,
years or something.
yeah. I mean, there's so many. I think that's the thing of it, and there's so many characters that you could use, and because not all of them need to be played by the same, same actor or actress. That I always thought they could have had a whole series about what Romana got up to in E-Space. We don't know till she, there was all that side of things. You could have had the whole thing about Jenny, the doctor's daughter that went off, and I thought they even thought about that. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I think they were
probably a
thinking
bit,
about it.
they were thinking about that at the time. I think it would be a bit odd now watching it because obviously the doctor's daughter is actually the doctor's wife. So in real
Yeah,
life.
uh, yeah, and she has a doctor as her dad as well, so
Yeah,
it would
I
be
love
very
that.
complicated. Um, and I think the actor who plays Jenny is actually worked with I think Colin Baker or something about Colin Baker that been
Mm.
involved with him or
So
the best mate.
it's
So.
yeah, it's very interesting the way that happened. But yeah, so I think you could always, I mean, yes, they did Torchwood, which was great. Um and yeah, but I think they did. I think the problem is that yes, Torchwood worked and was great, but then Class came out and just didn't work because I don't think you knew what it was supposed to be. That was my problem with it.
I, I watched it, I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, I watched it and I was like,
What
what?
is just in a school?
Yes, the fact that they completely redesigned Coal Hill like overnight into an
Yeah.
academy, and I'm, what? And then they made it worse by the fact that they then had Clara. Um, I know that was before, wasn't it? So yeah, sorry, yeah, they really, yeah, after Clara had been working there, where it was just an old school, and then all of a sudden, next thing, it's an academy.
They had the 12th Doctor make a cameo, but it didn't weren't there for long. So yeah, I think with Disney Plus, there's now a better option to have
Yeah,
spin-offs. Like
yeah,
Unit a spin-off now, probably because of Unit being in it. Especially like I would like it if it looked like Avengers Tower. Um,
yes, yeah, yeah. That does look very similar. The unit.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, yeah, it, there's scope there to do things like that now, and I think maybe that might be a way of going about it. So it takes a bit of pressure off the main show. And I think that's what Torchwood did to a certain extent back in the day. I mean, you had obviously, you had Captain Jack and all the guys in Cardiff, but that took a bit away from the main show, but then still allowed it at certain points to link straight back into it again. Obviously, when they needed Jack to be in a story, then they ended the series with him disappearing. So it's you could still do that and various other things. So that was always good. So I think there's always a scope to do that now, especially with the way that as you say, spin-offs are being created. But as long as I think if you're going to put the care and attention into it, then yeah, you'll get a reward. But if it's just, oh, we're going to do this, but we're not entirely sure why we're doing it, like something like Class and thing, it just didn't work, as for me anyway. But uh yeah, and I think if you're going to do something like that, you've got to have some kind of established character. I mean, you could quite easily have a unit one with Gemma Redgrave. Gemma Redgrave, I can never remember her name. Um, uh,
yeah. The one in charge,
playing
yeah.
yeah, playing Kate, and I think you can always have Osgood turn up in that because obviously she's still lurking around and things and stuff. So you could have something like that, and I think a lot of fans would definitely enjoy something like that, and they would definitely, I think, subscribe to something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it is awesome. I think.
Mm.
Like that I have at least like when you had Torchwood and Sarah Jane Adventures, you had one for a child audience, had one for an adult audience. So do something similar, maybe. Like we got Doctor Who Unleashed, which is going to be similar to Confidential, but I think what they want to do this time is more of seeing the actors like behind the scenes rather than the monsters, because that's what
Mm.
Confidential was. You see a lot of how the monsters were
Yeah.
made, but although that's nice. I'm more so interested in what the actors are doing, or have like the diaries come back where the Doctor or companions
Yeah.
just go into the location, which is pretty funny. Um, but yeah, so
Mm.
Unit are the adult one, and they could, I don't know if they did something with one of the older people, um, or a
Yeah.
person. So yeah, there's so much opportunities now for Doctor Who, and as where it did look like it's good stop. It definitely is the opposite now, where it could be going on for another at least to 100. To the 100th
Yeah.
anniversaries would be nice.
Never know. You never know. It's
Yeah,
it's one of those things that I think because it's. I mean, you always knew that they were gonna. If we ever got to that point, they were always going to come up with a way of carrying on past the end of Regenerations, 13 and all this sort of stuff. So we knew it was always going to carry on. And there was going to be a way around it, but it's like you say, it's a show that doesn't necessarily have to end. I mean, you know that I've always looked on it that ood when David Tennant was, you know, he said this story is ending, but the story never ends, you know, and that's the thing, it's never going to end. So
But the thing we have to think about is when it gets past to the 20th Doctor, it's going to
yeah,
sound weird.
that
It's
is
going to
I've never thought about that.
it's going to sound weird. So what we got to think about is how many Doctors is there going to be? Because yeah, we've gone past the limit. So what's the new limit? Like we can't suddenly they could, but it's going to be weird. So say we got to the 68th Doctor or the 60th Doctor. What are we going to do then?
That's yeah, yeah. Are they still gonna have the same ideas at that point? Yeah,
Yeah, I
it
think
is one
one
of the,
day it will stop.
yeah.
Hopefully before our time. So after our time, sorry, not before our time. So yeah, I think at least another. We won't get to the 20th Doctor for ages, I would say, because we're only on the 15th.
I think now
Another at least 40 odd years, I'd
I think
say.
it's hope that you know
Yeah.
these if they're going to carry it on that they they just put the time and effort into it again. It I mean I did feel it went a very bit weird and away from what the whole thing was. I mean I know there's the whole argument of you know you either kind of liked the way they went with Jodie or you didn't like the way they went with Jodie. You know I watched certain parts of it and thought no, other parts I'd heard, you know, saw or heard things about it, went okay, that's an idea. But it just seemed to fail on the execution, and I don't know if that was just due to the writing or I think it mainly was due to the writing. Really, I don't. Um,
They
you
changed
know,
their vision. Like
yeah,
I remember when I think it was on stage with Michael Sheen and David Tennant. And David Tennant asked Michael Sheen, "Have you ever been asked to play the Doctor?" It's like, "Yeah, I nearly got the part." So this makes me know that it was when Jodie got the part because he was like, "Well, I nearly got in. I was about to get it, but then I got a message saying they wanted to go in a new direction, a new vision." So you know, then when this happens, you knew Jodie is the one they went for in the new vision
mm,
because they've gone to the first female Doctor, which is great. Um, New composer, new writer, new everything.
yeah,
And the only I did like Jodie as a Doctor. I think she was great, but like we say, the writing wasn't as we were used to. And Chris Chibnall was a great writer. I loved him on Broadchurch. But like we say, it's like anything in Doctor Who, I guess, where you go like some episodes, you not go like some episodes.
mm,
Even some David Tennant episodes are great, but maybe the odd one or two, maybe the ones he's not in it aren't as great. But with saying that with Jodie, um, I like it. Nothing against the composer, but I like it when like say like we're used to Martha having a theme, Donna having a theme, Rose having a theme,
yeah,
even
exactly,
Sarah Jane having a theme. Yaz didn't have a theme. Graham
yeah,
didn't have a theme. Dan
no,
didn't have a theme. The Doctor had a theme. So how does that work? The Doctor has a theme. None of the
yeah,
companions have a theme.
yeah,
Captain Jack even had a new theme. So I didn't get that. For
mm,
me, like of course being autistic, I love music, and the
yes,
themes are the thing about Doctor Who that are the best.
mm.
And I'm glad they're bringing them back in the new series. But that would have made it a lot better if they gave each one of them a theme. I think.
It's yeah, no, definitely, and I definitely agree with you because it's something that appears in Doctor Who. It also appears in Star Wars, for instance. I mean, that's you know who's on screen, you know what's happening by each piece of music. You know Leia's on screen, you know Luke's doing something because you have their own themes. And as you say, especially um with the way that Murray Gold used the themes for the different characters, it set up the way that you as you're saying, it made you feel comfortable. It made you understand where that that sort of episode was going. You knew who it was affecting, and it gives you another insight into um being with that character. I think it allows you to relate to it even more, because you're sharing a moment with them because it's involving their piece of music.
Yeah.
And and it's I mean yeah, it's something that I think having that taken away was very odd, because it loses, I think, because all you're then doing is you're jumping from set piece to set piece, and they'll have a bit of music that relates to something that's going on the screen at that time. The amount of films and things that that I've always loved watching is you add a theme into it. There is a theme in the background that starts poking through. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a great James Bond fan, but I didn't like No Time to Die whatsoever. But the the
Yeah.
the fact that they used the music from On Her Majesty's Secret Service in that film because it worked. And there's this one. I mean, this is like the one bit where M and Bond are talking at the side of the road, and that they start putting in the theme tune to On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And it made it, for me, the best scene in it, because one, you've got two amazing actors talking about it, but because it added that music in, it gave it a bit more. It just gave it something more, and it gave you were there thinking, right, these are two characters who have known each other and they trust each other, and it added more to it. If it wasn't there, it would have just been two people talking, even though they're the characters that you know and care about. But having that theme tune in the background hark back to the fact that, yeah, we know this character, we love this character, there's a reason why we love this character, but it wasn't because it's his own theme, it was from another film, completely separate film, that from 1969, but because they used that as saying it's about the Secret Service. So the Secret Service, you could look at it, they took that and then gave the actual corporation that they worked for its own theme tune. So from that, it just completely changed the whole scene.
Yeah. It is. It. I completely get that, because I remember when Flux has shared their trailer,
Hmm.
and that weren't Doctor Who's theme at all. That was just a separate song. The song they played when they did the Flux trailer, and then we get the first 6-year trailer at Christmas. We just
Hmm.
know it. We knew Murray Gold was doing that music. We just knew it.
Yeah,
Before he was announced, because
yeah,
he was announced earlier this year as the new composer for however long he's going to be there. But we just knew that music was his, and I can't wait till they actually release the new musics and that they share them. But it's it's
yeah.
nice to have the music back and the new soundtrack, and it has
And
been
no,
missed.
yeah, and I definitely can sort of understand how, like you're saying, as how being autistic and the music being important to you, because it's. Do you find it as another link that it gives you to the show, or do you? How does it make you sort of feel when you're watching it? Does it give you that deeper sort of able to relate to something different in a different way, or?
I mean, when I hear it, I just get like hero-otic feeling when I'm watching it, and when I'm not watching it, I'm just not interested as much in it. And even though the episodes maybe weren't as good as they have been in the past, I feel like if music like that was added for the characters, so many more people would have liked it. I
Mm.
think, even if like the episode's rubbish, like Rosa was a great episode. The Judoon episode was actually a good episode. The Power of the Doctor was good. The Power of the Doctor is probably the best one, not just because David Tennant was in it. It was just, it was
Yeah,
good. But with the music, I think the last part of music we got maybe was in Peter Capaldi's episode, but when he went to turn into the fame. But yeah, my favorite one is piece of music is I like series 4, but I like the in Journey's End where all the companions are reunited,
yes,
um and they save the Earth. So they're playing a song called Dazzling End,
yeah.
and it's playing around, and then like you got Wilfred opening the curtains, all the fire's gone. So that's my favorite one. That's my favorite one. And there's one that has been unreleased, because Marigold left, everyone left after the last series. So it was in the last series with the 12th Doctor and Bill, and it was the one where I forgot what it's called because it's a really no, it was the pyramid episode with Peter Capaldi,
Yeah, yeah,
and there was right at the end of the episode where he got his eyesight back, and
yeah.
like with the monks, and Bill made a promise to the monks, and he got his eyesight back. What really, it may not be high pitch volume of music, but when you listen to that music in that few scenes,
Mm,
it's really good, and it's probably one of my favourite musics under the Peter Capaldi era.
mm.
Even though it wasn't my favourite era, because my favourite era was the first three, like Chris Eccleston, David Tennant, and Matt Smith. Um, but I just love that music. So I'm the Doctor as well. So just
Yeah,
just those type of music helps with the show. And music, like with autism, when I write an episode, I'll listen to some Doctor Who music um, on YouTube, and it helps me concentrate really in life. Music does.
yeah. No, it's interesting because the thing is, I've always, yes, yeah, I listen to music all the time, but when I was growing up, a lot of the music that I listened to was all things from soundtracks and things like that because I could visualize, like you say, it helped me concentrate because I would visualize what the music related to in my head. So it allowed me to, um, yeah, it allowed me to visualize what was going on and then take me either to, if I'd the place when I first watched that TV show or that piece of music or allowed me to recreate it in my head. So it helped in if you weren't feeling comfortable or happy or things like that, you were able to use music in that way. So no, it's definitely that, and having those characters and having those, because if it's a character's music, it doesn't matter what it's just that piece of music, but that's in so much stuff that it relates to a whole thing, and it just makes you feel in a happier place, in a happier mood. That's how I used to find things like that when I was younger. So it's definitely something that the show used quite well. I mean, especially with the I am the Doctor, the Matt Smith one, and various and stuff like that. I thought they were brilliant. They were just brilliant themes, and then you had, like you say, they then brought in other characters' themes as well, just also worked. I mean, you have Donna's theme and things like that, where which it's more
Yeah, like with Donna's
related.
theme,
Yeah,
if we don't see that in the 60th,
yeah.
I'll be shocked.
Really
but
disappointing.
but I don't think it's going to be the exact theme of Donna. I think they'll adapt it.
Yeah,
They can't. 15 years old, they wouldn't keep that. They have better technology now, so they'll make it a bit better. I'd say. With Donna's theme, the 14th Doctor will probably get his own theme as well. Um, Probably a little bit different to the 10th Doctor because the 14th Doctor is totally different. As we
yeah,
can see his anger in the trailer, so he'll get a
yeah.
theme
Yeah. Mhm.
as well. Like the mothers don't tend to get the themes or Wilfred. They just get a normal nice Doctor Who theme when they're on screen normally.
I mean, the thing will be interesting. Will be obviously, what new theme do we get anyway for the whole show? I mean, because I mean, it is, singularly the most important thing in the show. I mean, a lot of people say it's the characters and the stuff, and I really do get what you relate to with Doctor Who and the music. I mean, because if you go back to when it first started in '63, um, the music that in the radiophonic workshop and stuff like that, no one had heard anything like that before. It was all, uh, um, it was all just an orchestra would play a piece of happy jolly music, for some sort of TV show at the time. Um, anything like that with the Avengers, with it would all be very the Saint, the Avengers, all these different ones had all, bands and trumpets and various other things. The next thing, all of a sudden, you've got this absolutely weird, almost psychedelic tune being created all by electronics, being put out at what, 5:30 on a Saturday evening. And then going along with that, all the incidental music at the time was all the same. So obviously that was then be able to use to create so many different ideas in people's heads and stuff that, yeah. So definitely with the whole theme tune itself being the most, I think that's I always remember on Matt Smith's first episode that sat downstairs. I'm sitting there, my wife said something to me and I told her to be quiet, probably a bit more forceful because the theme tune just came on and it literally started. She was like, "Oh, I was saying so." I was about to try and talk to me about what had just happened, and I was trying to shut up because obviously I need to listen to the new tune because it's the first time I'm going to hear it and I've got to listen to the theme tune. So it's so important. So it will be interesting to see if it's some version of the original ninth, 10th
Yeah,
that we had, or will it invite? I had heard a rumor that it's going to include bits of it, all of them. So I read
yeah,
somewhere.
I heard that. Yeah, well, they had the I think the prom thing recently. So yeah, I think it is going to be very good, but the new theme. But the thing for the 60th is going to be interesting because, as we know from when they released the titles, that it was the Series 4 intro, which they've done. So I don't think it will just be Series 4. They might just mix it up between new eras.
Yeah,
I think I don't know if the intro for the 60th will be the same as Shooty. Maybe
yeah,
different. Maybe just one for the 60th. Who
yeah.
knows?
You just don't know. That's, again, I go back to the thing, we don't know, and that's just the it's so refreshing that there's so much stuff on social media now, as you say, with all the Marvel stuff, all the, these different films, DC films, Flash, all the stuff about Michael Keaton becoming back as Batman, and you'd seen basically all of his stuff and various things turning up, and all these bits, you've seen and heard, and all what's everything's been shared and stuff, that the fact that we're sitting here now in October and it's it's November next month, and you still, and they've released what, 2-3 trailers, and we still don't know the main storylines of most of the stories. You don't know what they are. You know the characters that are going to be in them, and you know that certain people are going to turn up at certain points, but you don't know why, and you don't know how those characters are going to get used. So,
Well,
and
what
it's,
I always say, and what we should always think is, they only show what they want us to know.
yeah,
They've showed us, they've confirmed the toy maker. Is that because everyone knew that anyway, or were they going to do that anyway? Who knows? And we knew Beat the
mm,
Meep. We know Beat the
yes,
Meep's in it. The Rough Warriors unit. But the characters, if Martha Jones is in it, they're not going to announce that. If another Doctor's in it, they're not going to announce that. So they want to keep it under wraps. So unless they're a main part of the story, they will. But who knows? We'll have to just wait and see, I guess.
a good thing. We're waiting to see it.
Yeah. Um, last couple of things, Chris, before we finish, because we've talked about a lot. Um, um, with a question which will get used in a video with everyone included in the series, is if there's one thing in the 60th anniversary specials, or someone that you'd like to see or happen, what would that be? What would you pick?
Um, if I could have one thing that happened in the 60th, I think, because I'm just a sentimental old sod, I would like to see Tom Baker in it. I don't know how, and I don't know why that they would do it. I mean, like I say, they could use the curator character again. But for me, that man is the Doctor. I mean, yes, I know he used to topple the tolls and poles and all this sort of stuff, and I know Mr. Tennant now does that very closely behind with him, but he had such an impact on this show that and I know that he got typecast and he got stuck in that certain thing, and he went away from it for a very long time, but then just came back, and he's done so much with Big Finish. He ended up to being in the 50th episode. If there was a way that they could get him in that made sense and wasn't just shoehorning him in um for for him to just be there, that if it made sense, then I think it would be lovely, because it's going to probably be one of the last times that we get to see something like that, especially with one of with an actor that made, I think, because he made such an impact on the show. I would love somehow for him to be in it. I don't know how, I don't know why. I just like them to do it something tasteful, not just shoehorn him in, but do something clever like they did with the curator character, because even to this day we don't know who the hell that was, and we don't know why he was there. We know he looked like the Fourth Doctor but older, and that's as much as we needed to know. And we got to hear that voice and watch him on screen again. That's all that really matters. So if they could do something like that, I would be very happy with it.
I'd love that to see Tom Baker again, because he's the longest Doctor there's ever been in Doctor Who, so it would be good. And like you say, he's getting on now, so he might not be here for the next one. And
Yeah.
most of the Doctors probably may not, because like 5, 6, even
Mm.
7, and 4, are I think in the late 80s, most of them,
I think that's
or
that's the thing,
or
the
early
character.
80s.
Yeah, because the age of the character change, you don't know. You can't remember off the top of your head
No,
that
you don't know.
they was the youngest up until Matt Smith, but it's
Uh,
crazy. So
yeah, it is crazy, and it's crazy how this happens. Like
mm,
soon, because each Doctor has at least 7 years. Soon the Doctors will catch up on the Doctors.
yeah,
Um, and at some point, because it's not like they have a new Doctor every year, so at some
yeah,
point, like in 10 years' time, like David Tennant will be in his 60s,
mm,
and Matt Smith will be in his 50s. So no, and he was the youngest Doctor, and Shooty is I think there's a little bit older than maybe Matt Smith was, but a very similar age when he was the Doctor. So I'd love to see I'd love to see Tom Baker, and I'd like to see like we said before, all the
yeah,
Doctors kind of
oh, yeah.
highlighted
Yeah.
in the
I mean, I
60s.
think whenever you get a chance to highlight them all, it's always been that special thing. All going back, from the Three Doctors all the way through to the last one we just had. But it's it just depends. If you're going to do it properly. I mean, I still love the fact that I get to rewatch the Day of the Doctor, and every time I see those four statues standing there in that thing, I now think that that's those three hiding under cloths. So it's it's 5, 6, and 7 hiding under sheets. So so, so it's brilliant. So if you're going to do it, and they can do it in a way, and like I say, if it has to be, it doesn't have to be him as the Doctor. If it's him as the curator character, then great.
Yeah, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it, and yeah, um, and yeah, as recording to everyone listening and watching, this is November. I am going to release this in November. I know before we had a little bit of debate about that, but November is Doctor Who month anyway, so
It is.
it's a good time. And just to mention before we go, Chris is involved, and I guess me as well, in this group called the Synergy. I can never say it right, but
Synergy
cosplay.
Cosplay.
Yeah, and that involves a lot about autism as well. A lot of people involved are within the community. So yeah, we're both involved in that, going to
I
different
think,
events
yeah, I
and
think
stuff.
that was another reason why the thing is, it drawed me to sort of wanting to sort of take part in stuff, because um it's a lot of people putting a lot of their time and effort in to do such good things for charity. I've previously I've raised quite a lot for for Macmillan after losing my wife and stuff. So it's it's nice. It was nice to actually be able to take part in something else for some other people, and do something for other people. That was what drew me towards it, and it's just lovely, you know, like Vicky, Dave, and people who else we met, like Tom, and I think Sarah and Matt, and Paige, and Mike, and various other people who were just so sort of welcoming. You know, that you're all kind of dressed up in different costumes. You're all doing stuff for other people, and it was just nice to be able to be with like-minded people who are all there having fun, but also they're doing something that is going to change, you know, do stuff for other people. So yeah, you get to dress up like a bit of a loon occasionally and have some fun, and brilliant. And it's also it's also hilarious to me now, because since doing this, where my partner Claire, whenever her dad says, "Oh, have you got a picture of Claire's partner?" He doesn't show a picture of me. He shows me a picture dressed as a biker scout. So which Claire is over the moon about, as you can imagine. So yeah, it's great, and it's just a nice little community, and everyone can, you know, if you've got a question or about costumes and stuff like that, you can always ask, and it's been really great. And then relating, I mean, it all started generally. I mean, I knew, sort of like I say, I knew of the Synergy group through various things, but the main contact I had was because I used to have a police box in my back garden, and I wanted to get rid of it, and I really didn't know what to do with it. And I thought, I'm not going to go about having to sell it, but I really did not want to pull it down and just throw it in the dump. So I literally just put a post, I think via the Geek Retreat website, as like a Facebook page, and just said, "Does anybody want it? If you want it, you got to come and get it," and stuff like that. And I think it's now in a garden in Colchester. So you know, with yeah, so it's been put back together. So that's the good thing about it. So it's all sort of the way things go around. And so if you can help other people, it's great, especially with the work that they do. And what's also been really nice about it is because obviously everyone's so welcoming, and it's the fact that because of that you have that atmosphere that then sort of transfers into the fact that all the people who are coming up to you and speaking to you, and they all feel comfortable, because, you know, at the end of the day, you're dressed as a character that they've only seen on a film. You know, it's like we were saying earlier, it's for some kids that could be quite scary, you know, that, you know, like I talked about the little boy seeing a Dalek and, you know, basically screaming and stuff like that. The fact that you're standing there dressed as a stormtrooper, or someone's dressed as like a doctor, or a Dalek, a Cyberman, or a, you know,
Yeah,
Jedi.
like you said, well, we had a picture of you, and I didn't even know.
Yeah, no, I remember, because you're in your 14th Doctor costume, you came up with your sonic screwdriver and
I
stuff
think I
like
was the only one there. I didn't see any other one. The only disappointing thing about the invasion was not there wasn't many Doctor Who people like wearing Doctor Who stuff.
I mean, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I'm hopefully going to Comic-Con MCM this year, and again, I haven't been for a couple of years, but I'm hoping, because it's October, just leading into November, I've got a funny feeling that there might be a bit more Doctor Who related things going on. So we'll see. I'm quietly crossing my fingers that there'll be a bit more there'll be a few more doctors running around than there was the last couple of times I went. So we'll see. But it's one of those things, I think, that will definitely perk people's interest again.
But we'll see. Yeah, right. Hopefully, I think November, October is the month for it. But thanks, Chris. Last thing before we go, if we can get our sonic screwdrivers and we can just wave it around or something.
I'll go 12.
All right. Yay. But thanks, Chris,
No worries.
for your time today. But to anyone listening, or even watching, seeing this today, we hope you enjoy it. And happy anniversary of Doctor Who, and we'll see you next time in the next episode.